Welcome to Burroughs Elementary.
Welcome to Burroughs Elementary. I'm Miss Clark and I love teaching here. John Burroughs Elementary School welcomes students from all backgrounds and cultures. We currently serve students from countries such as Guatemala, Venezuela, Ukraine, Haiti, Somalia, Cambodia, Puerto Rico, just to name a few. Embracing the diversity of our students and their families is important to us because we're able to provide rich learning opportunities and experiences for our students, fostering understanding and appreciation of different cultures. Discussing traditions and celebrations helps students share their backgrounds and learn from each other. It promotes inclusivity and builds a sense of community, which creates meaningful connections and enhances learning.
Our Burroughs mission is we will embrace all families as partners in our community, developing the whole child in a safe, engaging, and inclusive learning environment. Our Burroughs B's are be respectful, be responsible, be safe, be caring, and believe in yourself.
So we have many wonderful community partners here at Burroughs that support our staff, students, and families, from churches, the Hilltop Library, tutoring programs, and dance programs. We want the whole family involved at Burroughs. We love having parents and caregivers in the building so that you can get involved through volunteering, coming to our school concerts, award ceremonies, fall celebrations. We love having the whole family involved at Burroughs.
Burroughs Elementary School is named after a man named John Burroughs. John Burroughs was an American writer and naturalist that was very influential in conserving natural resources in America at the turn of the century. He is best known for his observations on birds, flowers, and rural scenes. There are 13 schools in the U.S. that are named after John Burroughs, our school being one of them. Our school used to be called John Burroughs Elementary, but it was later shortened to Burroughs Elementary.
John Burroughs Elementary was completely renovated in 2009. We also have John Burroughs Park, which is an alternative recess space for our kiddos.
Some of the things that I really enjoy about Burroughs Elementary is that I get to volunteer as a parent. I feel like I'm very welcome and involved in the kids' classrooms. And just being able to walk these halls and seeing their projects up on the walls is a great feeling.
Bienvenidos a la escuela Burroughs Elementary, para todos, familias y amigos.
Bienvenidos a Burroughs, me encantan los maestros aquí. Bienvenidos a Burroughs, me encantan las clases aquí. Burroughs is the best and the PE room is the best. Burroughs Space is the best place to learn.
Burroughs offers many special programs for our students, including our physical therapy, occupational therapy, and as well as physical therapy. We also have special education programs, as well as a special education program for our pre-K students, and a full-day pre-K program as well.
Gym is really fun. You can exercise
and all the teachers are very great. Burroughs is pretty fun. We get to get B-Bucks sometimes if you're good, and you can exchange them for prizes. Burroughs Elementary should be happy to be here.
Thank you so much for watching our video about Burroughs. We hope to see you come to a Burroughs family soon.
Greetings. Welcome to this week's highlights from across the district. February is here, and Columbus City Schools is proud to honor and celebrate Black History Month. This month honors the achievements, resilience, and contributions of African Americans throughout history. Celebrating Black History Month is a powerful reminder of our progress and the work still ahead in creating a more inclusive future. Throughout the month, students will engage in enriching activities, performances, and discussions highlighting Black leaders, innovators, and change makers. CCS is committed to better understanding the past and inspiring students to shape the future. Remember to check out our CCS social media pages as our district celebrates Black History Month and honors its rich history and lasting legacy. Celebrating a milestone moment. The CCS Winter Graduation Commencement Ceremony was held on Friday, January 31st at our Southland Center. Amongst the crowd of proud family and friends, we celebrated the academic triumphs of 22 graduates who have reached the significant milestone. Their dedication, perseverance, and scholarly pursuits have set the stage for a promising future. Congratulations to each graduate. As you step into new beginnings, may your journey be paved with continuous success. It's about that time. CCS is ready to celebrate National School Counseling Week 2025 with you. From February 3rd through the 7th, sponsored by the American School Counselor Association, this week spotlights the great work of school counselors and their vital role in helping students thrive academically, socially, and emotionally. With this year's theme, School Counseling, Helping Students Thrive, CCS celebrates the dedication of our school counselors to CCS and our students. They are the true heroes and sheroes, guiding students as they discover their passions and build paths toward future success. CCS is fortunate to have a team of skilled school counselors who create supportive environments for every student. Join us in celebrating their impact throughout this week. On February 3rd, leaders from Columbus City Schools, the City of Columbus, Columbus State Community College, I Know I Can, and the Columbus Foundation gathered at Fort Hays Arts and Academic High School to kick off the next phase of the Columbus Promise. This $25 million campaign will extend free college access at Columbus State Community College to 3 additional cohorts of CCS graduates through 2027, impacting more than 2,250 students. The Columbus Promise has already doubled the number of CCS graduates who enroll at Columbus State Community College. This program continues to remove barriers for students, many of whom are first-generation college students, while enhancing academic readiness, career exposure, and workforce development opportunities. Together, we're shaping a future where education opens doors and transforms lives. Get ready for an exciting week of connection and positivity. The Office of Whole Child Supports presents Columbus City Schools' 9th annual Relationship Week, February 10th through the 14th. In conjunction with the Sandy Hook Promise, this year's inspiring theme, Promoting Healthy Communities, embraces kindness, connection, inclusion, empathy, and belonging in every classroom, school, organization, and community. Students will participate in exciting activities throughout the school day to celebrate essential elements for fostering a caring environment. Let's make Relationship Week a memorable and heartwarming experience for our entire school community. Save the date. The 9th annual CCS Summer Opportunity and Engagement Fair is on February 8th. Dive in and explore what Columbus offers this summer for kids and teens at the 2025 Summer Opportunities and Engagement Fair on Saturday, February 8th at East High School from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. With over 50 community organizations and partners, The Summer Engagement Opportunities Fair will spotlight various summer programs, camps, internships, volunteer hours, and employment opportunities for students in grades pre-K through 12. Register today and get the resources to help you plan your child's exciting and enriching summer. These have been your highlights from around the district for February 4th. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good evening, learning community. Welcome to tonight's regular business meeting this evening, November 4th, 2025. February, Lord have mercy, forgive me. February 2025, regular business meeting. Please call the roll.
Vice President Adair.
Present.
President Cole.
Present.
Ms. Ingalls.
Present.
Dr. Pierce.
Present.
Ms. Reyes.
Here.
Mr. Simmons.
Present.
Ms. Vera.
Here.
You have a quorum.
All right, to appoint a treasurer pro tem, I recognize Vice President Adair to offer a motion.
Whereas Ohio Revised Code Section 3313.23 requires the board, when the treasurer is absent from any meeting of the board, to choose one of their members to serve in the treasurer's place pro temp. And whereas Mr. Cook, treasurer, is absent from this meeting, now therefore be resolved that the board appoint Christina Vera to serve as treasurer pro temp in the absence of the treasurer for the duration of this meeting and this meeting only. That is a motion.
Is there a second? Second. Second. It has been called. Forgive me, I keep wanting to see him over there.
As Vice President Adair.
Yes.
President Cole.
Yes.
Ms. Ingalls.
Yes.
Dr. Pierce.
Yes.
Ms. Reyes.
Yes.
Mr. Simmons.
Yes.
Ms. Vera.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. I'll give a quick review of our agenda this evening before we call for an adoption. So today, of course, we've gone through that. Through the call of the roll in order, we've assigned to President Pro Tem. Today, starting with public comment, we'll have a number of our guest speakers speak to us this evening. We'll then go into Section 5, which is Board Matters, and discuss 5 different pieces of legislation that range from a resolution for one of our former employees all the way to a second reading for Policy 5517.02. From there, we'll convene the meeting with executive report opportunities from our executive direct reports and go from sections 8.1 through 25.2, and we'll conclude in an executive session.
Point of order, you missed that we do have a section for notice of public hearing on reemployment of retired employees.
Thank you. Is that in Board Matters? I can't see.
No.
So thank you. We'll include that as a part of the agenda to be adopted as well.
Motion with that inclusion being
Second.
included.
All right. There's a motion and a second for the inclusion.
President Cole.
Yes.
Ms. Ingalls.
Yes.
Dr. Pierce.
Yes.
Ms. Reyes.
Yes.
Mr. Simmons.
Yes.
Ms. Vera.
Yes.
Vice President Adair.
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right. Thank you. Is there a motion? And by the way, if we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. Is there a motion now to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
We can call.
We already,
Just did.
we just
I
finished.
thought we adopted an inclusions of something.
It was already there. You
was
just
already
missed
there.
it, actually.
Thank
It was
you.
okay.
We're good, sir.
You're good.
Okay.
All right. All right. We'll convene into public comment, please. First up, we have Carl Kinzeski. Mr. Kinzeski? Carrie Kinzeski. Forgive me. My glasses are not working today.
Hi, my name is Carrie Konzerski. I'm a parent of 2 students in the district, and I'm a licensed independent social worker. I'm here tonight to talk about the harm caused by anti-trans bathroom bans, as well as any other anti-trans policy the board takes under consideration. First, I recognize the difficult position our state legislature has put you in by passing Senate Bill 104. You didn't create the situation, but now you must navigate it. That said, as our elected officials, you do have the power to stand up in favor of our vulnerable students, and I urge you to use that power. These bans have real, devastating consequences for real kids. Tonight, I ask you to either keep the original policy of 5517.02 as it was written prior to January's amendments, or rescind the policy altogether. Every time an adult, particularly with the power that each of you holds, stands up loudly and boldly in support of our trans and non-binary students, it sends the very clear message that each and every trans student in this district, just like all of our students, are deserving of having their humanity acknowledged and respected. On the other hand, every time an adult goes along with any anti-trans law or policy, such as those banning trans students from using bathrooms that align with their gender, forcing teachers to out trans students to their parents, and not allowing trans kids' existence to be acknowledged, sends the clear message that trans kids don't belong, that schools are no longer a place for safety, learning, and growth for them. This is cruel and this is dangerous. To be clear, any policy that targets trans and non-binary students or attempts to erase their existence is anti-trans, discriminatory, and harmful. These policies put students' lives at risk. These students that sit in your classrooms, play with your children on the playground, eat with them in the cafeteria, and ride the bus with them to the field trips. It's been found that anti-trans policies like the ones being discussed tonight cause up to a 72% increase in suicide amongst transgender and non-binary youth, a 72% increase in suicide. While nothing will top the consequence of suicide as a direct result of these policies, I want to point out that enacting this policy goes against the guiding forces the district states that it uses when making decisions. The Portrait of a Graduate, strategic plan, and goals and guardrails discuss inclusivity, creating a culture of belonging, and empowering every student. This policy does the exact opposite of those things. It discriminates, it excludes, and it places students directly in harm's way. I'd like to read a short quote from one trans woman regarding anti-trans policies. "This is gonna kill kids. It's wrong enough to kill me, a trans woman with a heart and dreams, things to say, fears and ambitions, and things I want to do in this life. But to kill a kid before they even have the chance to meet themselves, how dare you?" What I ask of each of you is that when you go into your discussion and possible vote tonight, please do so with your eyes wide open and your hearts wide open. Stand up to the bullies in our state house and ensure that trans kids receive the affirmation, respect, and dignity that all students deserve. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kinziski. Our next public speaker will be Rashida Angus. I believe she is present. Welcome, Ms. Angus. Thank you for coming. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. My name is Rashida Angus. I have been a member of the Franklin County Columbus community all of my life. I have 13 children. 8 of them are in Columbus City schools. I would not be here today if you did not close the elementary portion of your online school, as that was what I preferred for my children. However, this year they returned back to school, and bullying has been a huge issue. I feel that advocates in the school have let me down as a parent, and I'm sure others, in making sure that our children are safe. Rain was attacked at school, and she reported the bullying prior to the attack that following day. So she reported it the day before, and when she reported it to the administrator, she was told that if she got into an altercation, she would be expelled. No one who is reporting being bullied should be threatened to be removed from school, and that is what took place. The following day, she was in gym class, and she was attacked, as she thought that she would be. She was suspended for 10 days. I asked for an appeal on the suspension, and it was upheld. No documentation was looked at, no videos, only the word of the administrator, which at the time that the fight took place in the school, I had a son who was in the office. who heard administrators laughing because my daughter, who was being bullied and attacked, trying to get away from an altercation, ran. And because she ran to the office, the administrators in the office were laughing at her. This is unacceptable when our children cannot turn to the administrators in the office to secure their safety. Today, I'm totally shaken up because 11:30 this morning, I got a phone call from my daughter on another student's phone telling me that she is scared, students are following her, and they are getting surrounded around her. This is the first day back from school from the 10-day suspension. Other kids were bullying this other student, telling her that she lost or whatever the fight and she wanted to re-engage when my child was just trying to get away the whole time. And she ran and did what I instructed her to do. She called me. I instructed her to run to the office immediately. When she got to the office on the phone, the only thing that the administrator, Mrs. Sherry Williams, was concerned with was that she was on the phone calling someone. Someone was her mother. I didn't know what was going on with my child. Mrs. Williams snatched the phone from my daughter and hung it up. I didn't get a phone call for over an hour. I had to call the police. And when I spoke with the administrator, finally, my cause and concern was belittled. She made it seem as if I knew what was going on or that my child was okay. But the last phone call that I had was her picking up the phone and hanging it up on my child. So I have no idea what was going on. And then when I finally do try to get some consensus, she tells me that I shouldn't have called the police, that I'm using resources for reasons that are beyond me. I was not allowed to see the footage of my daughter's fight, but I was able to be provided the footage from children online on the Columbus Afrocentric Early College fight page, CAEEC, on Instagram. I posted a compilation video with children fighting in the bathroom, fighting on the bleachers, and fighting on the buses, and it was extreme.
I thank you so much.
Thank you.
For speaking with us this evening, Mrs. Angus.
Thank you.
Is there anyone, Madam Superintendent, that is available on staff to speak with Mrs. Angus?
Yes, there are members of the team that will be able to speak with you about your concerns.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Madam Superintendent. Thank you again. Our next speaker is Ms. Izetta Thomas. Mrs. Thomas? Where's Carl? Is she online?
She's always, she calls in.
Okay.
She's probably trying to connect her.
So ask Carl.
Carl, be sure to let us know once you've gotten Ms. Thomas.
Yeah, she's on the line. You ready?
Yes.
Go ahead, Ms. Thomas.
It's quiet. President Cole, Vice President Adair, board members.
Right now, if we can get sound, we can actually hear.
I don't have to tell you how dire these times are for individuals and collective communities, for public education as a whole. But I do want to tell you how it felt to have a school board actively chose to celebrate our trans students at a time when folks were just beginning to use pronouns en masse. It wasn't common to affirm others in such a small but impactful way. It wasn't popular either. It still isn't. But this board took a road less traveled by. It stood not just beside our students, but with them in developing these protections within the current transgender and gender variant policy. I know what the state says, and I know what the federal government says. So do you. I am asking you to listen to the hearts and minds of some of our most vulnerable students. I am imploring you to choose them again and again and again and again, because it's all or nothing. You either choose to protect and affirm, or you choose to harm. You have heard enough from me, so I'll leave you with this. Audre Lorde, a self-proclaimed Black lesbian mother warrior poet, argued that using the tools of oppression will not solve problems of oppression. She said, "For the master's tools will never dismantle the master's house. They may allow us to temporarily beat him at his own game, but they will never enable us to bring about genuine change. I am imploring you, choose our students, to affirm our trans students, our non-binary students, our gender variant students and families. Do not cause harm." Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Thomas. Okay, our next speaker will be Tracy Cottrell. Thank you for coming this evening, Ms. Cottrell.
Hello and good evening to the board. My name is Tracy Cottrell and I live at 734 Bryce Road, Reynoldsburg, Ohio. I am a teacher in Columbus City Schools, going on nearly 3 decades as a teacher, so I'm here to speak about the trans bathroom bill. So, to deprive someone of something, to deprive someone or something of human qualities, personality, or dignity, this is to dehumanize. This is what the folks on the right side of our legislation, of our legislators have done here in Ohio by creating a bathroom bill. They have othered our trans community, and the trans kids make up, just in the whole country, make up like 0.7% of the entire population. I'm here to say that our trans students deserve better when this board creates the bathroom policy. The trans students have the right to come to school and feel safe. Have any of you ever heard of the Institute of Sexual Research in Berlin? More than likely, the answer is no. I had never heard of it until I saw a video on Instagram of a Democratic congressman in Missouri telling this story in the House chambers in opposition to the trans bathroom bill. The Institute was the world's first trans clinic, according to Scientific American, and it would have been 100 years old today, or in 2021. Here's a little history that brings us to the Nazi Party. The Institute of Sexual Reproduction was founded by a doctor named Magnus Hirschfeld, a gay Jewish doctor. He had a medical practice, but decided to leave it after a young soldier came to him, distraught because he was gay, and that was considered illegal. Because the soldier couldn't take the heteronormative values placed on him by society, he decided to take his own life. In journals he left to Dr. Hirschfeld to read, he believed himself to be a curse and wrote, "The thought that you can contribute to a future when the fatherland will think of us in just terms." He felt dehumanized. Hirschfeld was beyond thinkers at the time and created a safe place for transgender and others in the LGBTQ community to come. By 1933, Adolf Hitler was the chancellor in Germany. He enacted politics to rid Germans of lives unworthy of living. On May 6, 1933, troops swarmed the Institute of Sexual Research and took 20,000 books to the street, piled them high, and set them fire. This was one of the first and largest book burnings in Germany. They came for the trans and LGBTQ people first. So even though the Republicans, or those on the right, who created and passed this bill at our state house, feel the need to believe the male masculinity makes them superior, just like the Nazis, our school district must make our buildings safe for all of our students. Be like the Native Americans who respond to their Two-Spirit tribal members and Magnus Hirschfeld, who worked hard to protect the trans and LGBT community. Be on the right side of history. Create a policy that is not discriminatory nor dehumanizing.
Thank you.
Bathroom bill that's safe for our children.
Thank you so much. Okay, our next speaker will be Dina Seco. I hope I'm saying that right. Welcome this evening. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening, President Cole, Vice President Adair, Treasurer Cook, Superintendent Dr. Chapman, and members of the board. My name is Dina Seco. I have 2 children in the district, and my husband is a CCS graduate. I have worked in environmental advocacy for the past 14 years, and I am here in support of the Safe Green Schools initiative to transition our district to clean energy and climate resilience. The timing is ideal to invest in renewable energy and efficiency as CCS develops its facilities master plan. This plan should reflect our community's evolving needs, offering an opportunity to create healthy, sustainable schools. As the federal government reduces its focus on addressing climate change, local institutions must step up. As the state's largest school district, CCS should take a leadership role. Columbus City Schools contributes to climate change through fossil fuel-based energy sources for electricity, heating, cooling, and transportation. The City of Columbus has adopted a climate action plan, you might be aware, to reduce its emissions by 45% by 2030 and carbon neutrality by 2050. With 111 buildings, serving 46,000 students, and employing nearly 9,000 staff, our district has a significant carbon footprint. To meet the city's climate targets, CCS must actively engage in the clean energy transition. You have the support of the community. Over the past year, I've connected with parents across the district, discussing shared values and goals for a sustainable future. Local voters recently backed sustainability by passing Link Us, which promotes walkable development, reduced emissions, and energy efficiency. Planning for climate change also improves educational outcomes. Green energy is one of the fastest growing sectors. By offering vocational training, CCS can prepare students for in-demand careers in solar energy, electric vehicle technology, and sustainable construction. I acknowledge that our district is under-resourced, and we have many needs with competing priorities. I will join you at the State House during this budget cycle to advocate for constitutionally mandated public school funding. Meanwhile, transitioning to sustainable power saves money. And there are numerous grants, loans, and tax incentives available to fund key infrastructure improvements. Upgraded HVAC systems, mold prevention tools, and similar investments will help CCS stay ahead of rising energy costs and regulations. I've also learned of schools across the country that have been making this shift and seeing financial returns already, and I'd be happy to connect you for idea sharing. We know that extreme classroom temperatures hinder learning and poor air quality affects students, especially those with asthma. Climate change will cause increased precipitation, impacting our buildings and reducing access to safe learning. CCS's commitment to equity requires attention to disproportionate effects of environmental degradation on the basis of race, poverty, gender, and geography. We have a responsibility to ensure those most vulnerable to these impacts are taken care of and can thrive. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker, Mr. William Easton. Good evening, Mr. Easton.
Good evening, CCS board members, Dr. Chapman. My sincere thanks go out to all of you, both for your service on the board to make our public schools better for everyone, but also for your time in considering the Safe Green Schools resolution tonight. My name is Will Easton. I'm the proud parent of a student at Whetstone High School. In addition to volunteering here with the Safe Green Schools project, I'm also a very active volunteer with the Whetstone High School Parent-Teacher Association. I address you today in strong support of the Safe Green Schools resolution for three primary reasons. The first is economic. The math is very straightforward. Our district pays something on the order of $10 million a year for electricity. Solar energy systems these days have a payback period of about 5 to 10 years. And experts in the industry are predicting big rate hikes this summer and for the foreseeable future. So let's start reducing the district's energy expenditure immediately and protect CCS from these rising costs at a time when budgetary resources are already stretched very thin. The second, of course, is environmental. Our energy mix here in Central Ohio is based on a majority of fossil fuels. So bending that arc towards solar and swapping out old diesel buses for new electric ones will be a big step forward for less air pollution, the pollution that directly harms all of our communities, both the carbon dioxide that's causing climate change, as well as the combustion byproducts like soot and PM25 that cause asthma and lung cancer in our communities. The third reason is marketing. With the recent realignments and building closures, our district could really use some good news for a change. So I ask you all to envision the good press that can be generated from solar panels going on a school and saved energy costs being switched over to instructional improvements. Or the B-roll footage of the new vocational program at Fort Hays Career Center that's training kids, CCS kids, for jobs in the fast-growing clean energy economy, with background shots of electric buses, zero-emission buses at the Fleet Service Center charging up from free solar energy generated right there on site. And finally, an appeal to all of you. Please don't let yourselves be lied to, okay? The opponents of clean energy will shamelessly tell you flat-out falsehoods that solar panels leak toxic chemicals or are regularly damaged by hailstorms or have high maintenance costs or only work when there's full sun. Those claims are deliberate lies, and you should never believe anyone who makes them to you. This is a very well-proven technology that literally hundreds of other districts, school districts around the country are already embracing with great results. So in closing, I hope you'll seize the opportunity to join those other forward-looking districts and move our district, CCS, into the clean energy economy. Thanks again, and I'll turn you over to a wonderful student from Whetstone High School for your next public comment.
Thank you, Mr. Easton. Our next speaker, Ms. Simone Edwards. Welcome.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Simone Edwards. I'm a sophomore at Whetstone High School, and I have always been a nature lover. It sparks a feeling of awe and wonder for me. But now nature is changing more than ever. As I've gotten older, I've become preoccupied by the realities of climate change. Not only do I experience nature in awe, but also in grief. I wonder what the future will look like. But this isn't just about the future. I'm feeling the effects of pollution right now. I ride the bus most days, and my ride home is about a half an hour, and I consistently get headaches. It stinks of diesel, and I worry about the impacts on my health and other students. A study by the Natural Resources Defense Council and University of California, Berkeley, found that the level of exhaust inside the vehicles reached 23 to 46 times the amount the Environmental Protection Agency said would pose a significant risk of cancer. That's horrifying. How can we be put in this kind of danger? Thinking about issues related to climate change and how it will impact our future became a big source of fear and anxiety for me. I felt powerless to the changes happening all around. That is why I started GROW, the Whetstone Environmental Club. Last year when I was a freshman, I gathered a group of people weekly who love nature and are committed to fighting climate change. This year, our main project was to transform our courtyard into a prairie garden to support local pollinators. We also host workshops where members lead on a topic they're passionate about. For example, mental health, landscape painting, and making art out of trash. A couple weeks ago, when I brought up the idea of CCS schools becoming carbon neutral to the club, I watched their eyes light up in excitement. Everyone talked about schools being safer, more efficient, and a step towards a sustainable future. They were heartened to hear that there was an organizing effort to make these changes and that adults were looking out for our well-being. We decided that we wanted to be a part of this. We started fantasizing about all the changes we want to see at our school. We want to see a school with compost that could go to a garden, rain catchment systems, solar panels, LED light bulbs, no single-use plastics, electric buses, and even basic things like recycling. If CCS were to make these changes to be more carbon neutral, it would show us that you're not only looking out for our Earth, but you're also looking out for our future. A GROW member, Nyla Voigt-Hoffer, said, "I am able to protest and try and make change, but we need our older generation's help. You 7 board members have the power to make this decision that impacts all of us. I strongly encourage you to vote in support of this resolution. Show us that you not only care for our education, but also our future." Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. The next guest speaker is Bertha Obayuwani. Good evening.
Good evening. There's no way you could have known this, but it's actually Betha. The R is silent, but very
Betha.
Yes.
Thank you.
So good evening, President Cole, Vice President Adair, Treasurer Cook, Superintendent Dr. Chapman, and members of the board. Asante sana kwa fursa hii. Jina langu ni Betha Obayuwana. Mimi ni mhamiaji kama wanafunzi wengi hapa Columbus. Nimeamua kuzungumza Kiswahili ili na nyie mjue unajisikiaje usipomwelewa mwalimu pia shuleni. Pia ili wahurumie wanafunzi ambao kwa sasa hivi wana hofu sana na mawazo mengi kutokana na mabadiliko ya serikali. For a moment you may have felt confused, maybe even frustrated, trying to grasp what it is that I was saying. That feeling of being lost, of struggling to belong, is what many students who are new to this country experience every day in our classrooms. But for them, it's not just about understanding the words, it's also about feeling safe enough to even try. Now imagine carrying that confusion while also living with the fear that at any moment, you or someone you love could be taken away. Imagine how hard it would be to focus on learning when the fear of deportation looms over your head. This is the reality for many of our immigrant students and their families. It's not just about language, it's about survival, about feeling safe enough to learn and to grow and to dream. I am here as a CCS parent, as an immigrant, and responsible global citizen asking that the board uphold the law, Plyler versus Doe, which ensures all children, regardless of status, have the right to an education, feel free, have a right to an education. Upholding it protects immigrant and refugee students' future and preserves education as a fundamental right. Our schools are strongest when every student, regardless of immigration status, feels safe, valued, and supported. Immigrant, refugee, and special status students bring diverse perspectives, resilience, and an ambition that enrich our classrooms and communities, yet many face profound challenges. Studies show that children in immigrant families who fear deportation experience toxic stress, leading to anxiety, depression, and decreased academic performance. In the wake of ICE raids, school attendance drops as families retreat in fear. Language barriers leave students struggling to engage, with some taking years to catch up academically. And legal uncertainties create instability that makes it difficult to focus on learning, makes it difficult to build relationships and plan for the future. By adopting an official resolution of unwavering support, we affirm that no child should suffer in silence, no student should fear the schoolhouse door, and no family should be afraid to seek the education their child deserves. A clear, aggressive stance ensures that all students can learn without fear, thrive without limits, and contribute fully to our shared future. CCS, please, let us lead with courage, let us lead with conviction, because when we protect and uplift the most vulnerable, we strengthen our schools and our society as a whole. Asante, thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Karen Shapiro. Welcome this evening.
Good evening, President Cole, Vice President Adair, Treasurer Cook, Superintendent Dr. Chapman, and members of the board. My name is Karen Shapiro. I live in Bexley, and I have been an ESL teacher in Columbus City Schools for 8 years. I'm here to speak to you from a classroom view level about the uncertainty and fears our ESL families are experiencing in our current environment. Before I begin, I would like to thank Dr. Chapman for the communication released last Tuesday. Your email addressed many of the concerns teachers have for and about our students and their education, giving us reassurance that Columbus City Schools takes very seriously our duties to uphold the rights of students under the law, Plyler versus Doe. I would also like to thank Board Member Vera for personally acknowledging each and every one of the email communications sent to board members articulating our deep concerns and worries for our students. A week ago, over 175 CCS teachers and staff emailed a letter detailing concerns and requesting the adoption of a safe zone resolution. Dr. Chapman released a communication shortly thereafter detailing district policies. While many of our concerns voiced in the safe zone resolution were addressed, there are still a few outstanding issues. I am here today to request action on the resolution statement that the policies be communicated to staff, students, and families. To my knowledge, there have been no communications directly informing students and families what school policy is in these troubling times. What does that mean to the classroom teacher? It means messages like these. Miss, I'm scared. I don't want to leave your country. I like it a lot, and I want to fulfill my dream of being a teacher. I'm so sorry I'm not at school today. I didn't feel safe leaving the house. I'm scared. I'm afraid to leave the house because I don't want to be deported. I don't want to leave here. I haven't achieved what I set out to do, to graduate. I want to be able to help my mom. She doesn't want me to go to school because she's afraid too. I'm so afraid to leave the house. I see people being captured on TV. Miss, what happens if they come to our school? Can they take all of us? How will my mom and dad find me? Speaking for Columbus Global Academy, the lack of information deeply affects our student and families. Parents are nervous about the potential arrests on the walk to school or during the wait at the bus stop. Consequently, they are keeping their children home out of fear. For example, our average daily attendance rate was 84% in December. Since January 23rd, our daily attendance rate has dropped to 78%. In real numbers, we have increased from an average of 49 absences a day to 68 absences a day. That's a significant jump. It is within your power to do something to change that. You can calm fears and give reassurance through communication. Our ESL families need to know that Columbus City Schools will protect the civil rights of their children on school property. They need to know we place critical importance on executing our duties under Plyler versus Doe. This information needs to be presented in forms accessible to all. It needs to be a letter or an email in their language. It needs to be on the district website. It needs to be in social media posts. And for families with literacy barriers, they need to see it and hear it in voice-over videos.
I thank you so much, Ms. Shapiro. You're out of time, but I thank you, and I know that the administration is taking action. Thank you so much. Thank you. Good evening. Our next speaker is Ms. Shannon Tuzzi.
Good evening, President Cole, Vice President Adair, Treasurer Cook, Superintendent Dr. Chapman, and members of the board. My name is Shannon Tuzzi, and I live in Columbus, and I'm a history and government teacher in the ESL sheltered site at Columbus International High School. I'm proud to say this is my 28th year serving and teaching students in the Columbus City School District. I, too, would like to start by acknowledging the good work that has already been done for immigrant students, specifically Dr. Chapman's letter outlining the protocols for schools to follow if ICE or other visitors come to school. And thank you, Ms. Vera, for your personal acknowledgement and thoughtful response to last week's emails. I am here tonight, however, to request further protections for students whose families risk detainment and/or deportation. Specifically, I urge the board to adopt this proposed resolution, which was emailed to the board by almost 200 staff last Tuesday. Most of my concerns fall in two areas. The first is the need to protect student privacy. It's crucial that the district review its record-keeping policies and practices. We must make sure no immigration status or birthplace data is collected. This information is irrelevant to students' education and potentially discriminatory. In addition, the district should delineate a process to protect students' directory information not covered by FERPA, such as addresses, phone numbers, and enrollment dates. All district personnel must be trained on how to respond to information requests of all types, including over the phone. Finally, we must ensure bus drivers and after-school staff are trained in how to handle and report situations such as ICE at bus stops. My second concern is the dire need for a rapid response team within the district, and we have questions. What are school staff to do in a situation where we cannot send a student home because guardians and/or adults have been arrested and detained? Our district should have a rapid response team in place to protect and care for such a student until a guardian or other designated adult is contacted, and all staff should be trained on this protocol. How can we best meet students' social emotional needs right now? Threats of legal action, separation, and/or deportation of family cause severe barriers to learning and education that can and should be allayed through support systems, including legal resources provided by the district. Finally, how is Project Connect equipped to handle this new reality? There is a potential uptick in students who are undocumented or in mixed status families reaching McKinney-Vento status. Our district needs to hire immigrant liaisons with expertise in immigrant populations who can serve as resources for families affected by detainment and deportation. In conclusion, those students who come to school are bravely taking huge risks in doing so. It seems only right for us adults to do the same and to be on the leading edge of this issue, not just reacting to it. We have an opportunity now to aggressively protect our most precious resources, our students. Please pass this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we quickly move into board matters, again, I thank each and every one of you this evening for sharing your concerns and your insights. I know that we in the administration take them under very, very serious consideration. Thank you. We'll move right into board matters. The first will be celebrating a resolution celebrating the life and service of Barbara W. Reed and her 52 years of distinguished service to the Columbus City Schools. I will read this one. Whereas the members of the Columbus Board of Education take great pride in recognizing individuals who have made a profound and lasting impact on the lives of our students, faculty, staff, and greater community. And whereas Barbara W. Reed dedicated more than 52 years of service to Columbus City Schools, holding roles that shaped and strengthened the district, supporting students in their educational journey, and ensuring the success of countless initiatives. And whereas Barbara began her career as a teacher, serving for more than 22 years before transitioning into various leadership roles, culminating in her 32-year tenure as the leader of the district's Fact Line program, where she set a high standard of excellence and ensured that staff, parents, students, and community had access to the accurate and timely information. Whereas the Fact Line program was established in 1978 during the district's desegregation efforts under Superintendent Dr. Joseph Davis, and under Barbara's leadership, it became an invaluable resource, responding to thousands of inquiries from across the globe. And whereas Barbara not only led Fact Line with dedication, but also played a vital role in preserving CCS history by organizing over 500 books of archival records, digitizing materials in collaboration with the Columbus Metropolitan Library, and creating the creation of a CCS History Museum, ensuring that the district's legacy is honored and preserved for generations to come. And whereas her passing is a profound loss to all who knew her, yet the legacy of excellence, service, and care will continue to inspire the district and the broader community. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Columbus City School Board of Education honors and celebrates the life and service of Barbara W. Reed, expressing its deepest gratitude for her remarkable contributions. She will forever remain a cherished and integral part of Columbus City Schools, respectfully presented on this day, February 4th, 2025. I wanted to acknowledge her son. I believe that Mr. Reed is here. Michael Reed, is he here? Say it again. Yeah, give me a second. All right. I just wanted to, before I second this, I wanted to make sure you stood up. Is there a motion to accept this resolution?
I'll second the motion.
All right, thank you. We can take the roll.
Ms. Ingles,
Yes.
Dr. Pierce,
Yes.
Ms. Reyes,
Yes.
Mr. Simmons,
Yes.
Ms. Vera,
Yes.
Vice President Adair,
Yes.
President Cole.
Yes.
That motion carries.
Thank you, board colleagues. Thank you, Mr. Reed, for your mother. We submit our deepest condolences on her loss. Your mother was very special to me and my family. She watched my children grow up in the school district. Every time I saw her, she had nothing but, a glimmer in her eyes, sharing the things about her super grandchildren. She will definitely be missed, and I wanted to make sure that you received this resolution on behalf of the Columbus City Schools and the Board of Education. Thank you. Okay, to our second resolution in honor of celebrating National School Counselors Week.
Thank you so much.
Dr. Pierce.
Thank you so much, President Cole. So we have a resolution from our Columbus City Schools and our Board of Education to recognize February 3rd through 7th, 2025 as National School Counseling Week. Whereas National School Counseling Week, observed February 3rd through 7th of 2025, highlights the vital role school counselors play in supporting student success and career readiness. And whereas school counselors are dedicated professionals who help students explore their strengths, interests, and talents, guiding them towards academic achievement and future career opportunities. And whereas school counselors collaborate with parents, educators, and community partners to identify resources that enhance students' educational experiences and personal growth. And whereas Columbus City Schools recognizes that school counselors are instrumental in closing opportunity gaps and advancing the district's whole child approach, ensuring students' academic, social, emotional, and physical well-being. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Columbus City Schools Board of Education proudly recognizes February 3rd through 7th, 2025 as National School Counseling Week in the Columbus City School District. And be it further resolved that the board encourages students, staff, and the community to express appreciation for school counselors and their invaluable contribution to our students' success. Respectfully presented on February 4th of 2025 by this Board of Education and Superintendent Angela Chapman.
Thank you. Is there a
Dr.
second?
Angela Chapman.
It is motioned and seconded.
Dr. Pierce.
Yes.
Ms. Reyes.
Yes.
Mr. Simmons.
Yes.
Ms. Vera.
Yes.
Vice President Adair.
Yes.
President Cole.
Yes.
Ms. Ingalls.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you, Board. Accepting this will be Ms. Renee Kelly, School Counselor at Eastmore Academy, EEA, and the CEA Senior Faculty Representative for her school counselors. Congratulations again. It's our honor to acknowledge you. We'll move on to Section 5.3, which is the 2025 school year 26 traditional and year-round calendar presentation. Madam Superintendent.
Yes, we have Dr. Michelle Klein, who will be presenting our school calendar recommendations.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chapman. Board President Cole, Vice President Adair, members of the Board of Education, Superintendent Chapman, Treasurer Cook, who's not here, and Internal Auditor O'Connor. I'd like to present the first reading of the 2025-2026 academic calendars for our traditional and year-round schools. Using our Board of Education Policy 8210, the Collective Bargaining Agreement, Section 1501.03, and a collaborative group of staff, a draft calendar was developed. Our labor unions were engaged consistent with their respective collective bargaining agreements. For purposes of determining the minimum number of hours for a school year, a district is required to have a minimum of 910 hours for grades kindergarten through 6th and 1,001 hours for grades 7 through 12. According to the state, a school district can use up to the equivalent of 2 days for professional development of teachers and up to 2 days for parent-teacher conferences and reporting periods. 15-minute periods for recess morning and afternoon for grades kindergarten through 6th. Lunch and breakfast periods, as well as extracurricular activities, are not allowed to be included in the calculation of minimum school hours. The length of the school day is governed by the Columbus Education Association, our CEA collective bargaining agreement. The length of the school day is 6.5 hours for elementary school and K-8 buildings, typically 9 a.m. to 3:30. The length of the school day is 7 hours for middle and high school students, typically 7:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. Currently, our average high school hours, if we average all of the high schools, because they're all a little different with their lunch periods, is 1,051 hours for high school, so we are far exceeding the minimum state requirement. For elementaries, it's 1,001 hours, average for elementary schools at the current time. Here's a look at the proposed traditional calendar. The first week back for staff would be devoted to professional development and common planning time to develop plans and instructional strategies prior to the return of our scholars. Research supports the use of collective planning to foster collaborative expertise, and providing this opportunity for teachers at the beginning of the year is a best practice. Effective professional development fosters collaboration and shared responsibility across schools and districts, positively impacting student achievement. Professional development also increases support for teachers in adopting new practices, ensuring that instruction is effective and aligned with the needs of our individual students. Here's a look at the proposed year-round calendar. The number of instructional days, 167, remains the same in both calendars as in previous years, as the professional development days from September and March were moved to August. A parent survey has been developed and is set to go out tomorrow morning in multiple languages to our parents, guardians of scholars in Columbus City Schools regarding gaining their feedback on this proposed calendar. This information will be used along with any additional comments we receive in the next month in order to fine-tune this academic calendar in hopes of a second reading at the March Board of Education meeting. At this time, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Klein.
Thank you, Dr. Klein. Are there any questions at this point for Dr. Klein on this calendar? Yes, Dr. Pierce.
Dr. Klein, can you please explain how our families that may practice holidays that are not highlighted on this calendar are able to celebrate and acknowledge those holidays?
Thank you to Dr. Pierce's question. Absolutely. So we have board policy. We can do appropriate excusals for religious holidays, and we do that all the time. And also, just to highlight something on the survey, and you're welcome to take a look at it. I did bring copies for you tonight. On the survey, we actually ask about some holidays and if they would prefer to take, like, the traditional Easter off, or if they'd prefer something else, or what day of the week is best for them to have days off for their children. So we're trying to get feedback from all of our parents and guardians.
Dr. Klein, is Eid one of those holidays that we've listed on there? As we know, we have a strong community as well as student and parent population that want to make sure we acknowledge that holiday.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Are there any additional questions, comments? Thank you, Dr. Chapman. We do accept this as a first read, and we do plan to revisit this calendar again in the March timeline.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Klein.
Okay, all right, moving forward to the action items that everybody are here to hear and us deliberate on. That is 5.4, Safe Green Schools Climate Resolution. Sarah Ingalls, Board Member Ingalls.
Thank you, President Cole. I'm thrilled today to introduce this resolution that has been the result of months of work and feedback with students, parents, teachers, community members, community leaders, board members, and more. This resolution was discussed in our board's Equitable and Transparent Resource Management Committee in December 2024 as well. First of all, the resolution does not obligate or mandate the district to start or implement any project or spend any resources. resources. But what it does do is it creates a call to begin work to seek out and identify available resources to provide for green and sustainable improvements for school buildings, improvements that would save this district money. In order for this to happen, the resolution calls for this to take place in conjunction with the planning that's already happening with the facilities master plan. Only after funding resources are identified and guaranteed would a project commence. Under the resolution, only projects that save the district money would be pursued. There's money on the table right now, and Columbus City School kids and this community deserves a piece of that pie. School districts have been getting solar and using green energy since before the IRA because it is a money saver. The IRA gives extra incentives, but even if it went away today, we could still pass and implement this resolution. Districts do power purchase agreements where a company owns and maintains the solar panels which are on the school roofs. It costs nothing to the district, and then you'd buy the energy back from the company at a rate that is still less than what you'd otherwise pay. In terms of funding availability, there are a couple buckets that funding falls under. First is the direct payment tax credits. Here, the district would get up to 50% of the funding to complete a project if it meets certain criteria. Second, there is grant funding that has already been obligated and is now being administered by third parties. An example of this is the Environmental Justice Thriving Community Grant Makers Program. This resolution would help organize the district to start studying grants such as these and begin the application process to get much-needed funding into this district. I also want to add that we have had the luxury of both local and national partners who are willing and interested in working with us, including nonprofits, local government partners, Sustainable Columbus, and more, who continuously monitor funding opportunities that fall beyond the buckets I mentioned and who are prepared to help work with our district and staff in identifying opportunities as stated in this resolution, with identifying who could be a sustainability coordinator and whether that could be a partnership between us and local government entities for a comprehensive and collaborative approach within the region. And it includes some benchmarking. That will ensure that we get this done. As you heard in public comment, there's also an opportunity for our kids to get plugged into a growing and well-paying career field of sustainability and green energy. And this is where we, board members, have the power to make a meaningful impact with what our kids deserve, the opportunities that our kids deserve. Not only that, this is necessary for the future health and well-being of our children who attend the Columbus City Schools. As a child who suffered with asthma, I'm thrilled about the opportunity to bring this resolution forward to the board for consideration because I believe it will help address critical climate issues that are real and coming, whether we bury our heads in the sand about it or not. The truth is, we will see more climate refugees coming to Columbus. We will see more children feeling the effects of climate change. And it's our job as board members to be good stewards of the taxpayer dollars. This resolution would be a demonstration that the district will do all it can to find all areas where it can to bring much-needed money into this district. The resolution is a first step and a low-risk one. It's important that the district begins this work quickly because the funding won't always be there or may not always be there, especially as school districts across the country are already taking their piece of the money, their piece of the pie. Millions of dollars are in funding are at stake, and Columbus should get their fair share. Mr. Roush and Treasurer Cook, who unfortunately can't be here tonight, have helped us explore some of these financial opportunities. So I want to offer the opportunity. Mr. Roush, do you have anything that you would like to add or share as far as funding that has been explored?
I would be happy to. I do believe that the treasurer actually has joined or is in the process of trying to join right now. But we have had some conversations. We're continuing to explore different funding vehicles and mechanisms. We have a meeting actually with our municipal advisor coming up in the next several weeks to see what other possibilities there are. I know that the treasurer has been actively having conversations with a number of folks regarding potential grant opportunities. We've had some conversations with folks nationally who worked with other school districts in availing themselves of some of the projects, particularly those available under the Inflation Reduction Act. So those explorations and conversations continue. I think that he is committed to having further conversations and exploring the vast majority of items that are out there. If he is on, I'll give him an opportunity to chime in, but That's what we.
Can you hear me?
Jim. Oh my goodness.
Okay. Is
I
this
think
Treasurer
Dr.
Cook?
Roush. Yes, I think Dr. Roush summarized everything. We'll continue to work and push these funding opportunities forward, depending on what the board's desires are with green energy.
And I do want to share, the Ohio School Board Association had a conference this fall that many of our fellow board members had attended, and many of those actually discussed green energy. And there was one district in the state of Ohio, a rural district, that actually is making money off of the green energy work that they are doing out there, and was able to fund and sustain a recreation center for their community. By applying for and using some of these green funds. So this is a real opportunity for our district, and I'm excited to bring this resolution forward to the board.
I thank you, Board Member Ingalls. I'd also like the opportunity to allow the superintendent to weigh into. I know some of her staff have been involved in discussions with this resolution and work.
Thank you, President Cole, members of the board. Our team has been working with some of my direct reports have been working with ETRM committee to support this resolution. Certainly, we are fully supportive of the goals as well as the intent of the resolution. We certainly would like to have the opportunity to provide feedback on the implementation of the resolution. So when you get 2 pages, the second part of the resolution, I know that my direct reports have provided feedback, and we just want to make sure that all of that feedback was committed or implemented as a part of the resolution.
Board Member Ingalls, can you, and thank you for that weigh-in, can you speak a bit to those benchmarks? I like
Sure.
the fact that they were extended to year 2026.
Yes, so we actually, our advocates have been reaching out to the district for quite some time now, and we have had a number of meetings, including with the staff that work with Dr. Chapman. All of the information and feedback that I've had to date has been integrated into the resolution, and that's part of the fiscal year language that was changed in the resolution. That was a request that I had received from Board Member Adair. So we are very interested in working with the administration, but obviously as the money is out there and allocated, this is a time is of the essence issue. And so if we are going to go after some of this money, some of the grant applications are due as early as April. And so getting together a grant is something that we need to get moving, and we have partners who are excited to help us. We also have partners who are willing to fund a grant writer for us to get this done. We just need the input and participation with the administration. So that's what this resolution is intended to do, is to make the statement that is the intent of this board, that we would like for that collaboration so that we can get some of these applications out there and start securing some of this big dollar money for our district.
Just a moment. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I can go ahead. Just to chime in a little bit on the committee side of the work, and something that Sarah did mention. This resolution, again, is about starting. Really where this work needs to live is within our integrated facility plan, because it needs to become part of an embedded kind of thought process and mindset on how we approach future building, as well as working through our new permanent improvement money. And so we want to do this smart, and we want to do this in a way that we are seeing a return on our investment. We don't want to spend funds if it's not going to save funds, if it's not going to impact student outcomes. That is not what we are trying to do here, but we do need to get started. I do want to highlight that we actually have an incredible in-house team that has been working on this stuff for years, actually, and we, have been doing things. I don't think it's been getting the notoriety or credit that it deserves, and so this is another way to bring it all full circle and within an integrated plan so everyone understands what we've been doing. So all of the things the students spoke about, some of those things are actually happening at various schools and sites. And so ETRM next month is actually Sustainable Columbus is going to be coming to talk more about that strategy, because we are a big regional player in the city of Columbus. And in order for the region to meet its goals, we have to help. And so I just want to highlight those things as to kind of Dr. Chapman's point. the board isn't really asking, and this resolution doesn't really, other than some small benchmarking pieces about when a few things need to be done, and most of it's tied to, applying for the grant. It's really about the plan that the administration is building right now and integrating that. And so I think that that's incredibly important because in order to be sustainable, it must be integrated. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President. I have a quick question, too, and it's relative to the pause of expenditure towards permanent improvement dollars. And I wanted to kind of direct this to the Treasurer's Office to just give clarity. The statement under the third benchmark cites, and that's the third Roman numeral benchmark, from the date of the passing of this resolution and all future dates, before any expenditures from the Permanent Improvement Fund occurs, there shall be an evaluation of potential green infrastructure investments, sustainable carbon-free technologies, vulnerabilities to extreme weather events, and exposure to heat, particular air pollution, so on and so forth. But it's asking for there to be a pause of permanent improvement money being spent. And I want to know what the impact of this is, particularly on current things that we have scheduled for, even for this summer, as far out as this summer, for repairs. How does this impact our ability to pay our vendors for work that our schools need to have happen now?
Thank you for the question, President Cole. Looking at the plain language where it says before any expenditure occurs, it would the way we would read that, or the way I read it, is that we would spend no permanent improvement money until such time as we have the evaluation.
Yeah.
Regardless of whatever that permanent improvement money may be for. So whether it's if we're buying, and I'm sure my colleagues over in facilities will correct me, I'm going to probably say this incorrectly, but for instance, a Zamboni, it looks like a Zamboni that you use to clean the floors in some of the buildings. I don't know, is that what it is at a Zamboni? Close enough, close enough. I'll get partial credit on that. It looks and acts like a Zamboni. We wouldn't be able to. We would typically use permanent improvement funds to purchase an item like that. We couldn't do so until we get the evaluation. So we will pause. Certainly, if the board adopts a resolution, we'll pause any future projects. We'll inform the accounts payable to certainly take such action until we get the evaluation in. But and I'd certainly defer to my colleagues in the operations side. But I don't. It could have some impact on ongoing projects currently, dependent upon, things are already kind of in the process or moving. If we've not done the evaluation, we couldn't expend the funds, so I don't know what that could have. It could have an impact on summer projects and such. I don't know. I don't believe that's the intent, but.
Okay, please clarify. Thank you.
That's not quite, I think, the intent of what this is getting at. So the intention is, again, kind of what I said about things being integrated. First of all, our permanent improvement funding is newer, because we have now a dedicated, bucket of money. Thank you, taxpayers. And so as we will, actually, in the next few months, we're going to start to hear more about a capital budget. The goal is to have it integrated in that process. And so whatever the process will be that the facility team will use, we want an evaluation of potential projects. So for example, right now we know that we're doing roofs. We do roofs every summer because we do. So when we are going out and doing those projects, there should be an evaluation whether or not perhaps solar could be put on at the same time, right? So we are doing things in a much more integrated way. The team needs to help us figure out what that evaluation process is, and the board wants to know that it occurred before we vote on the expenditure of the money. It's part of the package. It's part of the PI projects coming forward. So it isn't meant, pause actually is not, there's no word pause in this whole period.
Just a paraphrase, I think.
Well, don't paraphrase, because there's no word pause here. So it's not about pausing funding, it's about integrating a process where we are pulling in sustainable mindset to the way we're designing.
President Cole, board members, when I read that paragraph, that was the same interpretation that I had, because it says from the date of the passing of this resolution, and all future dates. Before any expenditure from the PI fund occurs, there shall be an evaluation of potential green infrastructure investments. My team provided feedback that we wanted to adjust that language because that would mean a significant change in our processes immediately, and we don't have the capacity or the resources to make that change tonight for implementation tomorrow. When I hear you talk about this should be included in our planning processes for the future as we're developing our integrated master plan, that makes perfect sense because these are all processes that we would have to create. We don't even have the evaluation process right now. We need to create the process to then to do the evaluation. And so I just would offer that we have feedback that we would like to add, particularly on the implementation side. Certainly the goals and the intent, we are certainly in agreement with, we can continue to work on, but where the logistics lie in terms of the implementation, the day-to-day implementation, there may be some, we're raising that there are some challenges. And just in the interpretation, there was confusion here with just that paragraph, and there are some other items that we would certainly like to have the opportunity at least to review and discuss and provide you with that feedback.
In continuation, thank you for that. Hold on just a moment. We have another question from Board Member Simmons.
Thank you. As we move forward into a space where we're increasingly having to think about the district's resources, both staffing, facility, financial, as we move forward long term, I wanted to be mindful that as we roll out new initiatives, we're also being mindful not to overstretch the administration. And Dr. Chapman, you touched a little bit on capacity, but I was wondering, in order to conduct these evaluations, is that something that you'd have to go hire a third-party firm to do? Is that something that you first saw would be conducted in-house? And then also, my second question was the intention of the legislation to pause those payments before, or because I still just don't have clarity around what exactly it would mean to, excuse me, around what exactly it would mean from the date of passing this resolution and all future dates before any expenditures.
So your first question, just as
Dr. Chapman, in order to do those evaluations, is that something that you first saw would happen in-house, or is that something that we'd have to hire additional staff or a third-party
Thank
firm?
you, Board Member Simmons. So that would have to be explored further, but under benchmarking, the second statement, it says by FY 2026, we would implement a green energy evaluation process.
And that's August, right, of this year?
2026. So we would have to create an evaluation process. So that the timing and the cascading of it is a little bit off if we're talking about evaluating legislation effective immediately, but we're not creating the evaluation process until 2026. Just some additional feedback that we'd like to be clear about the expectations so that we can honor and fulfill all of the board's requests. That is our hope, that is our goal, and that is our intention. We certainly want to move this work forward. We want to make sure that we're doing that with all the clarity that we need to make sure that, you know, those dates and timelines matter.
Would you say, when considering our additional priorities, the goals and guardrails, the ongoing facility realignment work, would you say that your team does have the capacity, if this resolution was adopted, to begin formulating that evaluation process immediately?
Well, no, I'm not saying that. That was not calendared for this year. Certainly, we have our priorities set for right now. This would be a long-term process. We would need time to implement, and certainly we would be calling on for additional support to help extend our capacity to support this work. In the resolution, it also includes adding additional capacity to our team, so that would be another funding request. I don't know if the grants that we're seeking would also provide funding for staff as well, but that would certainly be another funding request. So there's some of this work would be done internally prior to additional staffing capacity being added, I imagine, but certainly we could certainly work through those details.
President Cole.
One last, yes, sir.
Thank you. I did want a point of clarification for the coordinator position. Is that an additional, was that envisioned as that be a new position created, or was that an additional responsibility that would be onloaded onto someone else's current set of responsibilities? And the reason I ask is when I think about another one of our competing priorities, our LEDE program, Locally Economic Disadvantaged Enterprises. We know it can take some time to hire someone to do that type of work and find someone with the right skills and background and expertise. And so I don't imagine perhaps you'd have time to do that. So just a point of clarification, is that coordinator position a new position, or is it an additional set of responsibilities that would be placed onto someone's current role?
When I read this, I read it as a new position, and that there would be additional funding that would be allocated.
It's like I didn't even have a meeting with your team yesterday.
So
We have a sustainability coordinator in our.
Let's keep, hold on, just a point of order. There's a question on the floor.
Thank you so much, President Cole. So while this is a very fruitful conversation, I think where there may be a difference of understanding is that resolutions are kind of driving decisions and policy, and this resolution includes resolution language as well as policy language. So I wonder if we could send this resolution over to our Policy and Governance Committee. They could separate the two, or if we as a board right now can say that there are elements of the document that we have in front of us that are consistent with the language and the tradition that we use when we pass resolutions, and move forward with that language, but then send the other language, which is very consistent with our tradition of making policy, over to the Policy and Governance Committee to do that.
So and with respect to the work that has been done on behalf of our two board colleagues, number one, number two, in respect to adherence to time to ensure that we get this up for application process. What I'd like to do is deliberate on that now. I'd like to offer a amendment to strike particularly the language that speaks to the permanent improvement dollars not being expended until. Yes, sir.
Prior to any amendments, it needs to be moved in second, and so it's
correct.
It's actually on the table.
Correct.
I move to introduce the resolution.
I second.
There's a motion and second. Now, I'd like to offer an amendment to strike the language about permanent improvement and the non-ability to make any expenditures with those permanent improvement dollars. Can you find that language?
President Cole?
Yes.
Could we get that amendment change just typed out before we vote on it? Or I'm confused about what.
We're going to find the language right now. We'll identify the language. Then what we'll do is have that discussion. Is there something particularly that you want to revise or?
No. I just wasn't exactly sure what part we would be striking.
We're about to find that out right now. It's on page 3.
So the item is on page 3, sir. It is the paragraph after A, Roman numeral, small Roman numeral 3. It's that paragraph starting with the from the date of.
Okay. I motion to amend this language to be stricken from the date of the passing of the resolution and all future dates before any expenditure for the permanent improvement fund occurs. There shall be an evaluation of potential green infrastructure, et cetera, et cetera. I'd like to strike that language from this resolution.
Is that the whole paragraph?
Yes, sir. That is a whole paragraph that stops, at, yes, that's the whole paragraph, yes, because that other clause includes that evaluation.
We have to take a vote.
Second.
I'd like to.
There's a motion and a second.
There's a motion and a second. Can we call a roll?
No, you gotta take comment.
On the amendment.
On the amendment.
Yes.
Is there any comment?
Yes.
Dr. Pierce.
So my
first.
comment would be, if we are striking that portion, I would move that we strike entirely page 3 and page 4, because those are the pages and the language that actually speaks to the implementation of this resolution, as Dr. Chapman has said, that lines up with our traditional language that we use when we as a body make policy, while pages 1 and 2 align with traditional language we use when we make resolutions.
That was not, is that a motion?
That is
We
my
have to vote.
comment.
We actually
towards
have to
your-
vote on
That's,
it.
that's
I
my
thank you for
comment towards your motion.
I thank you.
Are you
Board Member Vera. Board Member Vera.
Thank you, President Cole. I definitely appreciate my colleagues for the hard work that has gone into this, and I definitely see Dr. Pierce's point in regards to pages 1 and 2 being, the language around the resolution. I do have concerns around pages 3 and 4, even outside of just the paragraph, President Cole, that you highlighted. There seems to be additional language there shortly thereafter that focuses or highlights 30 days from the passage of this resolution. So I would encourage us, if this is the will of the body, to consider at this point separating pages 1 and 2 from 3 and 4.
So is there an additional comment? Yes, Board Member Ingalls.
Yeah, I think there are plenty of resolutions that have guidance and directives as well. I would be happy to take pieces of it to the Policy Governance Committee, specifically the paragraph that Board President Cole spoke about with putting before the board any evaluations. That could certainly be written into a policy, and I'd be happy to strike that part and put that into a policy that would then be brought back. I do think that the benchmarking is just a reiteration of the whereas. So if we believe in the whereas and we're saying we believe in the whereas, then let's do the benchmarking and let's put our money where our mouth is, because that's exactly what that is. It's not setting forth any particular thing. It's just guiding the administration in some of the work. It's not necessarily appropriate for a policy. If we want to take that second piece, that from the date of passing, and put that into a policy, I'd be happy to take some of that up. I do want to note, however, this language had been shared with the administration as early as late November, and we had been trying to work on getting this to a point where we could put it before the board. We put it before one of our committees, and our committee members also had the opportunity to hear about it and give feedback at that time. So it is true that a lot of work has gone into this. I think, too, some of this has been explained, that when we do evaluations for solar, the companies can actually just come out and do that evaluation for you. So it's at no cost. And then as I explained in the previous part, the intent is to identify a sustainability coordinator. It does not say the school district has to hire the sustainability coordinator. It's to identify somebody we can work with. And again, Sustainable Columbus and some other local partners have been interested in helping us identify who that person is, and that's something that some of the grant funding can assist with. So if we are going to strike any piece of this, the one paragraph that President Cole suggested, I would be fine with, as far as looking and putting that into a policy. But I do think that the rest of it is appropriate for a resolution because it's identifying goals that we want to get to and no specific pathway on how we have to get there. It also doesn't bind the district to any expenditure or anything that doesn't make sense for the work that we're already doing.
Dr. Pierce.
So again, I call for the separation of the two, pages 1 through 2, point to 2050. 2032, when you get to pages 3 and 4, the benchmarking does in fact put our administration into a position where they have to be ready to implement this by FY 2026. So again, I think for true co-collaboration to happen that will lead to the type of change and implementation of true green structures that we want to see, there has to be more dialogue and collaboration between the team that will be implementing this.
I thank you for your feedback. Is there any additional feedback before we call for this motion to be voted on?
And the motion, the amendment is to strike the language that we would be voting on, because that was comment on his language. Yes.
There was not a motion on your
No,
part.
his
Okay.
motion is the only motion that's on the floor.
Thank you.
Sorry, could you repeat what your motion was?
To strike the language around from, well, sorry.
So the motion, the amendment on the table currently is to strike on page 3, the paragraph after Roman numeral 3, starting with from the date of the passing through their return on investment. That is the motion before?
Yep, that entire paragraph, yes, sir.
Yes.
That is the motion on the floor. Is this a point of clarification? Please.
Is there a parliamentary procedure way that we could maybe vote on striking the 2 pages first and then vote on striking the paragraph? Maybe if Board Member Dr. Pierce were to offer a motion to amend the amendment on the floor, I'm not sure if that'd be possible, because
Cole would have to accept it, so at this point we have to deal with his first and then, yes.
So,
are we understanding that correctly? Or could Cole offer a friendly amendment to his, or then?
Technically, you can offer an amendment to an amendment. You can't go any farther than an amendment to an amendment. So if you offered that as an amendment.
I will offer an amendment to Cole's amendment, to President Cole's amendment, to strike pages 3 and 4 in its entirety and to keep pages 1 and 2 for vote tonight.
Is there a second on that amendment?
Second.
All right. There's
Okay.
been a motion made that amends that and a second. We can take the vote.
Dr. Pierce.
On my,
The question before is
entirety.
to delete pages 3 and 4.
Period.
yes, delete 3 and 4.
Ms. Reyes. Mr. Simmons.
Yes.
Ms. Vera.
Yes.
Vice President Adair.
No.
President Cole.
Yes.
Ms. Ingalls.
No.
That amendment carries. Now, this is the funny thing about parliamentary procedure. Now, the amendment that is before you to vote on to incorporate into the resolution is now to delete pages 3 and 4. That's now what the amendment reads. You simply amended Mr. Cole's amendment to delete pages 3 and 4. So now you're voting on the amendment to strike pages 3 and 4 as amended, as Mr. Cole's amendment was amended.
Okay.
Everybody following?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Okay. So, Ms. Ingalls.
No.
Dr. Pierce.
Yes.
Ms. Reyes. Mr. Simmons.
Yes.
Ms. Vera.
Yes.
Vice President Adair.
No.
President Cole.
Yes.
Motion carries. You are now to the resolution as amended. Mr. Simmons.
Yes.
Ms. Vera.
Yes.
Vice President Adair.
Yes.
President Cole.
Yes.
Ms. Ingalls.
Yes.
Dr. Pierce.
Yes.
Ms. Reyes. That motion carries.
Thank you. All right, moving on to our second reading of Board Policy Number 5517.02, Transgender and Gender Variant. Board Member Ingalls.
Thank you, President Cole. So Board Policy 5517.02 is here for our second read tonight. Our last board meeting, we discussed it at our first reading. This is a result of what is colloquially known as the bathroom bill that had passed the state legislature, which requires certain language if you have a policy that states certain things. In this district, we have one of the most robust and protective transgender and gender variant policies in really the area. And so that is something that I'm really proud of and that this board is really proud of. And we have a state law that would require what is harmful and hurtful language. And so that's what we are deliberating today. Last board meeting, we discussed that there were a few options that we have fully evaluated. A couple of those options are keep the policy the same and do not comply with the law, which presents a great risk not only to this district, but potentially to the families that would see the news about what's going on, and to our taxpayers if we were legally defending this. And so there were lots of considerations about whether we should do that. In addition, whether we should strike parts of the policy. There were some concerns about that because the bathroom ban is not the only harmful thing that is coming out of our state legislature that we will have to grapple with. And so we were realistic about that and thinking about the other things that would be coming down the pike and how we might handle those. And then also striking the entirety of the policy and kind of assessing where we want to go from here with the expectation that all of our students are treated with dignity and respect, all of our staff are treated with dignity and respect, and all of our families and community members in this district are treated with dignity and respect. Our practices do not have to change because the policy did. We are debating about the policy itself. And so I'm really grateful to the folks who worked on that, on this policy with us and discussed it. A lot of very hard considerations were had, and grateful to our administration for being there, our legal team, Dr. Chapman's team, our union partners who were present with us, and the Kaleidoscope Youth Center, who has been an incredible ally in not only the creation of this policy, but in our deliberation about how to move forward. And so with that, I would like to invite a member or one of our friends at Kaleidoscope Youth Center to come up and kind of explain a little bit more, probably more eloquently than I just did, about some of the considerations and any recommendations that the organization may have for us.
Thank you. Good evening, President Cole, Vice President Adair, Superintendent Dr. Chapman, and members of our board. My name is Amanda Erickson, and I'm here to represent Kaleidoscope Youth Center tonight. Kaleidoscope Youth Center is Ohio's largest and longest-standing nonprofit organization that is dedicated to serving LGBTQ youth and young adults. We value our partnerships with school districts, community centers, providers, families, and especially youth. And we're especially grateful for our long-standing partnership with Columbus City Schools, as approximately 50% of the youth that we serve are current or former students of Columbus City Schools. So I want to thank you for bringing KYC into the discussion around supporting our LGBTQ students and for inviting us here tonight. In July 2021, with input from the community, the CCS Board of Education adopted Policy 5517.02, titled Transgender and Gender Variant Students. Per the policy, the district is committed to ensuring that all of its students, including transgender and gender variant students, are provided a safe, supportive, and equitable education environment that is free from discrimination and harassment based on a student's actual or perceived sex, gender, gender identity, gender expression, nonconformity to gender stereotypes. This policy should be interpreted consistently to promote an inclusive and equitable environment that respects transgender and gender variant students and maintains the privacy of all students. Senate Bill 104 is a restrictive bill that mandates all kindergarten through university school bathrooms and spaces used for school-sanctioned activities to be restricted by a person's sex assigned at birth, endangering the safety and dignity of trans students or anyone perceived as transgender. This bill is blatant discrimination and will create unsafe environments for trans and gender nonconforming individuals of all ages. Additionally, the bill irresponsibly fails to outline an enforcement plan, inviting the potential for discrimination and harassment based on a student's actual or perceived sex, gender, gender identity, gender expression, nonconformity to gender stereotypes, vulnerable to vigilante restroom police. The impact and potential for harm for Senate Bill 104 is far-reaching. Students already avoid eating or drinking so that they won't need to use the facilities during the school day. Some students are able to access single-stall private restrooms like those in administrative or nurses' offices, which at times can be disruptive to participation in educational activities or connection with peers, among other challenges. Some students do face barriers to access, such as finding a trusted teacher to unlock the door for them without further questioning. No teacher or staff member should stand in the way of any student requesting to use a restroom, and in fact, all adults should go out of their way to ensure that students have access to these spaces. Today, in collaboration with our community partners, we're requesting and recommending that the Columbus City Schools Board of Education vote to either keep the current policy 5517.02 as written prior to January's amendments, which would continue to affirm and establish safer spaces for trans and gender variant students in spite of current state and federal laws, or strike the entirety of the current policy 5517.02. Its existence with amendments directly sanctions discrimination and erases the original intent, which is to ensure that all of its students, including transgender and gender variant students, are provided a safe, supportive, and equitable educational environment that is free from discrimination and harassment based on a student's actual or perceived sex, gender, gender identity, gender expression, nonconformity to gender stereotypes. We appreciate and support the affirming teachers and other personnel who continue to care for students. And to our students, we appreciate and support the ways that you are brave and continue to keep yourselves safe. We are sorry that you have to be brave in this way. To the CCS Board of Education, your vote today will highlight the leadership of Ohio's largest school district while affirming its commitment to support and protect all students. KYC is committed to continuing to provide the district with guidance and best practice information to ensure that any outcome minimizes potential harm to students. Thank you for your invitation today, and I'm open to any questions if you have them.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Okay, colleagues. So as we're looking at, Board Member Ingalls, are you offering a motion to totally do away with this policy, or because I'd like to offer a motion.
I'll let you offer the motion.
Okay. I'd like to offer the motion that we keep policy 5517.02 as is. It is currently in existence in our current policy. I'd like to keep it the way it is. I'd like a policy on the books to keep it the way that it is. I don't want to offer to accept this second reading. I want to make the offer that we keep the current language on our policy books as it is. Is there a second?
No. Point of order.
If you're going to keep it as is, you technically don't need don't take any action. It just will remain on the books unless your motion is an affirmation of the.
It is an affirmation.
Policy.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, Dr.
Have we
Pierce.
discussed in detail what the legal ramifications are for this? How can we be sued by other political entities, by parents? What are the ramifications for us keeping our currently existent policy? Mr. Barnes, good evening.
So the question, what are the legal ramifications if the policy were to remain the same?
Can you lift the microphone up so our community can hear you?
So the question is, what are the legal ramifications if the policy were to remain the same? The ramification is that the board will be in direct violation of the law. The reason that the board is even considering this policy is, first of all, because we had a policy that protected our students. And because the policy as it stands is not aligned with Ohio law, it either has to be rescinded or the draft that's before the board adopted. I do not believe that the board can, out of hand, violate the law.
In layman's term, please share what that means.
Like
I'm two.
There is legal exposure to the board for violating the law. Our ethics laws dictate that you don't violate the law. Our policies dictate that the board members are to carry out their responsibilities in a legal manner.
Follow-up clarifying question. From an ethical standpoint, does then the entire board as a group, should we keep our policy, are we then exposed as a group, or are we exposed as individual board members?
Ethics violations are individual.
Yes, I'm just asking, so we have the clarification. Okay, and so if that is individual, and we are in violation of our ethics that we have all said we will uphold, does there then, does the exposure come with fines? Like, what does it come with?
Short answer is I don't know what that, because the statute doesn't provide for enforcement.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't. Now, that may sound great at first blush. However,
it's Black History Month, y'all.
It is a violation of law, which means, and when I say that I don't know what the repercussions are, it's simply because it's not specifically stated in the statute.
So as I'm understanding this, by us, as President Cole has said, if we keep the current policy that we have, it seems that there's two levels of exposure. One, it is exposure for the entire board because the board is not following ethics. But it is also individually exposure as well.
Yes, and it's more than just an ethical violation.
That's why I'm asking you these questions, just like we're two. Explain the exposure to us.
And I don't know what the specific exposure is, but there is, I can say this, that there's always legal exposure when you're in direct violation of the law.
Are there any additional questions? Board Member Vera.
So thank you, Mr. Barnes. And just as a point of clarification, if we did not have a policy, would we be in the same situation in terms of, liability, or what is the counter to having the policy? We know that now. What's the trade? What would that be?
With or without a policy, the law stands. The law says what it says. Policy has to be consistent with the law. Every policy that the board has, the board is obligated for the policies to be consistent with law.
So,
Another clarifying question.
Please.
Without the policy, if I'm understanding this correctly, there is less exposure for the board and the board as individuals, because we do not have to have a policy. Am I understanding that correctly?
That is correct. That is correct. A rescission of the policy does not expose the board to liability. What will expose the board to liability is what actually happens in the schools that's condoned by the board.
Thank you, Mr. Simmons. Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Barnes. Is there any additional question? Yes, please.
I have a question to Dr. Chapman. Dr. Chapman, as Mr. Barnes has indicated, additional exposure for the board and board members will happen based upon what conducts or what happens in our schools. I think Board Member Ingle said it well, and I would agree with the fact that all of our students need to be treated as human beings. Point blank, period. I'm not going to go into this whole identity continuum. Our students, our staff, everyone needs to be treated with the dignity and respect of being human beings. The current administrative guidelines, can you give us an idea about how that dignity and respect will continue to be extended to all of our students, to all of our staff members, if we were not to have a policy?
Certainly. Dr. Pierce, thank you for that question. We certainly want to make sure we're acknowledging that our administration, our team, our staff, our principals, everyone who works with our students, we see our students, we respect them, and we will continue to make sure that we are treating all students with the dignity that they deserve and making sure that we are providing them with the supports and resources that they need in Columbus City Schools. And so I think that what our legal counsel is providing us with and explaining that if we didn't have a policy, certainly as leaders, as board members and superintendent, we're still accountable for what happens in schools. That's not germane to this specific policy. That's germane to everything that we do as a part of our district and operating schools and the business that we have. Like that's not specific to this policy. But I think what our legal counsel is explaining is that if we did not have this policy, we would not be in direct violation with the law. And so we are certainly committed to making sure that all of our students feel seen, heard, and appreciated in all of our schools and our classrooms in CCS.
Can I ask my question a different way? As I look at our students from Whetstone, and thank you all for being here, I know there is a gender non-conforming restroom. There's a couple there, I think, but I'm aware of one. When our students walk into that building, will they be able to use that restroom as the gender non-conforming restroom? Or will it become a boy-girl restroom?
There is an option in the law that allows us to provide students with a single-use restroom. And so that would be our opportunity to make sure that the students have the space and the privacy that they need within the school buildings.
So as I'm understanding, one way that we could approach this in the buildings is that our non-gender conforming restrooms the signs on them will change from non-gender to single use.
No, we're not talking about implementation at this point. We're not saying that we're changing the restrooms. That's not what we're discussing. We're saying that we are committed to making sure that we follow the law and making sure that we're prioritizing the needs of our students. So if we have students that need access to a single-use restroom, they will have that access in our school buildings. We will make sure of that.
So as a board member, I want clarity and understanding of how you are going to ensure that our students, that our staff have access to that restroom, given my understanding of the law is that we now have to have gender-specific restrooms. How Are you, as the superintendent, in all of our schools going to ensure that all of our students and staff are treated with dignity and respect and can go to the single-use restroom?
Yes, Dr. Pierce, I'm sorry if I wasn't clear. We already have gender-specific restrooms in our buildings. We also have single-use restrooms in all of our buildings.
Right now, they are labeled as non-conforming. They're
No.
just they're going to stay the same. They won't be labeled. It's
We
still
have
there.
single-use restrooms in our buildings that are single-use restrooms.
Single-use restrooms aren't labeled. Single-use simply means that anyone can use it because it's a one-person single-use restroom. So it's one person at a time, and it's for use by any student.
Or
any staff.
Or staff.
And staff.
Or visitor.
Or visitor.
So what I hear us saying is the way that you will maintain dignity and respect for all of our students and staff is to maintain to use the single-use / non-gender conforming bathrooms that exist in our school buildings without this policy.
Without the policy, our students, staff, community, parents will have access to a single-use restroom, which is compliant with the law. And also, our first priority is making sure that we're meeting the needs of our students and our staff.
Thank you.
And there'll be a memo stated as such to the administration. I think that's the spirit of what she was really trying to get to.
Yes, we certainly, once the board makes a decision, we certainly will make sure that we cascade that message. If there's a policy change, a policy modification, we'll make sure that we cascade that message throughout the organization.
All right.
Now, that language that type of accommodation was added in draft form to this policy.
Mm-hmm.
It specifically allows for single use, whereas before the policy did not.
So if there aren't any additional questions, what is the will of my colleagues at the table?
I don't have a question.
Yes, please, go ahead.
I wasn't here at the last meeting. I was sick, but I listened online to the dialogue. And for me, I've always been between the two options that Kaleidoscope outlined, to either, and one proposed by Board Member Cole. Leave the policy as is. It was something that we worked really hard on. We worked hard on it with our community. It affirms our kids. It affirms our commitment. It affirms our values. Or get rid of it altogether because it was something extra and really doesn't change the core value of what I just said. I think what's hard for me in this situation, I have right now pulled up the letter from Birmingham Jail from Martin Luther King, where he talks about he asks the question, how can you advocate breaking some laws and obeying others? And he asks us to consider whether a law is just or unjust. And he says that an unjust law is a human law that is not rooted in eternal law and natural law. Any law that uplifts human personality is just. Any law that degrades human personality is unjust. All segregation statutes are unjust because segregation distorts the soul and damages the personality.
Thank you.
Wait. I'm sorry.
No worries.
I sit here as a member of this board who has given so much to this community and our kids to fight. And my soul is questioning whether or not we have to figure out in this moment if we will fight in a way that allows us, as you are suggesting, President Cole, to follow what Dr. Martin Luther King says and not follow an unjust law. And we have so many things to fight because of what's happening today in our society. We have so many things. And unfortunately, this will not be the first time that this group and others, because we know the pattern, will face more obstacles and segregation. And so that's my personal struggle. And I'm an attorney, by the way. You know, I've in my bar, I've sworn to uphold the Constitution, not just as a board member, but in my legal profession. But I can't help but think about where we are as a moment in time in history. And as some of our speakers alluded to, we know what's coming. And we have to figure out how and when we are going to fight or what we're going to do. I think either option in this case allows our students to have the dignity and respect. I think changing the language to what the law has said does make it an anti-trans ban bill, anti-non-binary language. That's something we completely disagree with. So I think the language as proposed in the first reading goes against our values, our core values of who we are. I would like, if we could, to table this because I think that we need more understanding of our individual and board legal obligations and to consider how we approach this topic going forward in terms of how, as a district and community, because this is a community, this is going to be a community issue here, how we go forward and determine how we handle this and potential other unjust laws as we see them coming from both our state house and our federal government.
I will second that motion to table. Board Member Cole, I would like to comment.
I would like to ask a question.
Hold on.
I would like to.
Board Member Ingalls has the floor.
Thank you. I would like to know, I second the motion to table in support of our board revisiting this at our next board meeting, which would still allow us to be timely and compliant. I do think that I echo everything that my colleague, Board Member Adair, has just said. These are difficult times, and we have a lot of unjust laws that have been passed and are coming down the pike for enforcement, and that will be coming. And so we as a district have to decide, and we as a community have to decide where we lay that fight. And is that fight in a policy when we can still continue the good acts in our classrooms and protect our kids in our classrooms and use the training and tools that we have already? Or is this something that one lawsuit can be millions and millions and millions of dollars in a district where millions of dollars are whether or not you can feed children and keep the heat on and do the education programs that we need, right? And so this is a real hard decision, and I'm grateful for your motion simply because I do think it's worth our time to really think about this and think about how we want to move forward as a board. But obviously, I am encouraged to hear the support of my board colleagues about these issues and that there's a lot of care and a lot of concern for the families and the students in this district that will be affected by the decisions that this board makes. And so I'm very grateful for that.
So my question was around point of order. I need to understand, is there a motion on the floor from President Cole? And now we have taken a motion from Board Member Adair, which has been seconded by Board Member Ingalls. Where are we in terms of the action that needs to be taken at this point?
Board Member Cole made a motion. There was no second to his motion, unless I hear a second.
There was none.
So it dies for lack of second, which then puts the motion to table in order, which has been moved and seconded. So at this point in time, you would have discussion on you would have a vote on the motion to table.
So is the floor open for discussion?
Yes, it is.
Could legal please share with us what the timeline is should we table this? What is the actual timeline that a decision needs to be made?
The law becomes effective February 25th. So there is another board meeting before it becomes effective.
Any additional questions or comments?
I
Yes.
When is the next board meeting? Let me make
The
sure.
17th?
The 18th.
17th? 18th or 17th? One of those.
As President Cole, just as a point of understanding and clarification, what will the process look like between now and the 18th for the level of engagement we're talking about, right? Because I want to be mindful of, as my colleague has expressed, this is something we obviously very deeply care about, but what are we actually saying we're committing to between now and the 18th? How are we going to go about gathering this feedback? We've brought in some experts. You all have been meeting with experts. We've all gotten different calls. So I guess I just want to understand, when we say we're tabling it to bring it back on the 18th, what is supposed to happen between now and the 18th?
Woman Ringles?
I would like to make a suggestion that we request from our legal counsel a briefing on what liability exists for the board and what does it mean for individual board members to have certain liability. What does it mean if an ethics complaint is brought against you? What are the possible penalties? What are the possible penalties for the district for noncompliance? Having a further understanding of that, I think, will help inform the board. And then I would encourage us to have more discussion on where we want to stand and what fights we want to take up as a board. And that is hard when you are bound by the Open Meetings Act, which can only allow 3 board members to discuss any given matter that is board matter that should be at the table. So I would encourage us to even consider a special meeting in between now and then so that we can have more of a dialogue on this. That would be a non-voting meeting, but would allow us to have more discussion and more understanding. So those would be my recommendations.
Can I ask a quick question for clarification? President Cole, you have already sent out emails indicating that we're going to have 2 additional special meetings. Board Member Ingalls, are you saying that these meetings would be in addition to the 2 that we're already going to have?
So what we could do is take a portion of this up in one of those special meetings as a part of executive session if we have the legal realm to be able to deliberate on that. Otherwise, I'm more than happy, capable, and confident of having this conversation in the very civil way in which we've had it up front today in front of Joe and Jane Public.
That's absolutely correct, President Cole. As you consider this, you also have to go beyond consideration of liability of the individual board members, because this also implicates liability of staff in schools that are carrying out your directives.
Please clarify, what do you mean by the liability? What is the liability for the staff in schools that are carrying out our policy? Should we keep it? Like I'm
An individual who is, it would be the same liability. It wouldn't be an ethical violation, but it certainly could turn into, depending on what the state does, it could either be a civil penalty or even a criminal penalty. And that would be individual to the staff member who is in violation of the law.
Who would then have to carry out our policy. Can we call a question?
And it's not, there's no indemnification because they're carrying out your policy.
That's good to know.
Yes, ma'am. I have a question.
So just as a point of clarification, that's if in fact we have the policy. Once again, I'm going to circle back to, if we do not have this policy, is it the same situation as it relates to our staff and our buildings and what they can and cannot enforce?
Regardless of the policy.
So regardless.
What actually happens in the school buildings.
Okay.
Does it comport with the law?
So what's at the table are a couple of options. One that was discussed is the idea of tabling this. There's a motion on the floor for that. There's the other option. Option 2 is to do away with the policy altogether, design an administrative guideline or memo directive that expresses to our education community, building for building, that there are spaces available for our students to have their privacy, identity, dignified by using that facility. There are two options here.
Mr. Roush, I'd like to call a question on the tabling.
Okay. There's a question been called.
The vote.
Mr. Simmons.
So calling the question, hold on, calling the question means that we're going back to, she's trying to push us to vote for the motion that's on the floor right now to table.
Motion on the floor is to table.
Yes.
Ms. Vera?
Yes.
Vice President Adair?
Yes.
President Cole?
Yes.
Ms. Ingles?
Yes.
Dr. Pierce?
Yes, with the caveat that I would like a timeline for how we plan to move forward.
We have to vote by the next meeting.
We just have to, we have to take action.
We have to, legally.
The motion carries.
Thank you. All right. Before we get to our executive director, executive leadership reports, I wanted to, in the spirit of the conversation that we just had, which is actually around priorities, about what it is that a community will and what we are willing ourselves to do. I want to say again, good evening. Columbus City Schools, learning community, and our residents. It is a humbling honor to serve you as your board president. In this year 2025, our Columbus City School Board of Education, our district, is poised to increase in the momentum towards greatness for children. I believe us to be a major cornerstone of our state capital and the development of human capital. Our nation's 14th largest city is the development of human capital and also the institution that is helping children realize and seize the possibility of infinite possibilities. This is where, for me, I believe that dreams, hope, and potential forge outcomes beyond belief and common sensibilities to the highest realms of faith. When we are unified, we rise and overcome. But when we are divided, we confront the destructive failure of the fall. Through united work, we push through a global pandemic with a determined focus on leveling learning pathways while leveling up children for their academic marathon that starts in pre-K and ends at college or career opportunities. I've spent my first month as board president speaking with my board colleagues, community leaders, students, staff, and residents. The takeaways of those conversations have reinformed me about their willingness in support of CCS, incorporating students as much as adults in the reimagination of our district, deepening community relationships, and demanding productive leadership from this Board of Education. It is a year when we will step up out of the shadow of the past and embrace a future of creativity, mutual support, growth, and leadership. But to achieve this, we must stay focused. We must be disciplined in our approach, and we must be clear in our priorities. Moving forward, I ask all of us to remember the importance of what I'm going to use as an acronym to spell out exactly what our priorities are: screening. Screening our work as both board and administration. More than ever before, the time is at hand to maintain a steadfast focus on screening on the following priorities and aims: student outcomes, communicating the facts of who we are and what we stand for, what community values are that are shared amongst all of us. I think tonight is an indicative conversation of that. Realigning our academics with our assets to maximize potential. Educating ourselves to be more effective, engaging with truthful and strategic intent, and negotiating in fairness for the needs of our children as our first priority. In function, see, we legislate, appropriate, and generate based on law, balanced with community aspirations. Moreover, as duly elected members of this board, we are community confidants who lead our school district with shared values, goals, guardrails, and the Columbus City School mission that each student is highly educated, prepared for leadership and service, and empowered for success as citizens of a global community. Let's make this golden year the start of something extraordinary for Columbus City Schools, our children, and the adults responsible for our children. Thank you. All right, on to Superintendent Executive Report. Is there one, Madam Superintendent?
Good evening, President Cole, Vice President Adair. I do not have an executive report for today, but I certainly would like to share some good news and a few highlights. Certainly, last week we had our winter graduation where we had 22 students graduate. Some graduated early, some needed extra time, but certainly is a milestone celebration for our students in CCS. Yesterday, I had the opportunity, thank you, President Cole, for joining us at Fort Hayes at the Shot Tower for kicking off the second phase of Columbus Promise. And this is a commitment to all of our high school students, our high school seniors who graduate from CCS. They have opportunity and access to attend and continue their higher ed degree at Columbus State tuition free. And that's for the cohorts of 2025, 2026, and 2027. As a reminder to all of our families that tomorrow we do not have classes for students. Tomorrow is a district-wide PD day according to our district-wide calendar. That's tomorrow, Wednesday, February 5th. And then this Saturday, certainly want to remind everyone that we are having the Summer Opportunity and Engagement Fair. This is the opportunity for all parents to come out and certainly explore and learn more about the summer opportunities and experiences that they can certainly take advantage of for their students in our community. Some of these are CCS events about our summer opportunities, as well as many, many, many community partners across the city that will be offering summer experiences and opportunities. So this is a great opportunity. It's a one-stop shop for families, and we encourage them to join us on Saturday. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chapman. All right. Mr. Internal Auditor, do you have a report?
No report this evening.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Roush, is there a report on behalf of Ryan Cook?
I do not have a report.
Thank you so much. All right. We're going to go to voting on the consent agenda. Excuse me. We're going to go to 9.1. Thank you. 9.1 is the notice of public hearing on the reemployment of retired employee Molly G. Proto. 9.2 is notice of public hearing on the reemployment of retired employees Perry L. Solano.
I'm gonna do it for Board Member Cole. Okay.
Thank you, Vice President.
Yes, item 9.1 is the public hearing on the reemployment of retired employee Molly G. Pronto. Pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Section 3309.345, the Columbus Board of Education gives notice that Molly G. Pronto, school psychologist who retired from the Columbus City Schools effective December 2nd, 2024, is seeking reemployment with the Columbus City Schools as a school psychologist effective April 7th, 2025. The board will hold a public hearing on March 18th, 2025 at 6 p.m. in the boardroom at 3700 Columbus, Ohio, 3700 South High Street, Columbus, Ohio, on the issue of Ms. Pronto's employment. Item 9.2, notice of public hearing on the reemployment of retired employee Perry L. Solano. Pursuant to Ohio Revised Code, Section 3309.5, the Columbus Board of Education gives notice that Periel Solano, Executive Secretary 1, who retired from the Columbus City Schools effective January 31st, 2025, is seeking employment with the Columbus City Schools as an Executive Secretary 1 effective April 7th, 2025. The board will hold a hearing on March 18th, 2025 at 6 p.m. in the boardroom at 3700 South High Street, Columbus, Ohio, on the issue of Ms. Salerno's reemployment.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. Moving on to to acceptance of the consent agenda. We're going to consider our consent agenda. Our consent agenda consists of items 10.1 to 25.2. Are there any items that a member would like to see taken out of the agenda for discussion?
Motion to approve consent agenda.
Second.
There's a
I
second?
did the motion. She got the second.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
Ms. Vera?
Yes.
Vice President Adair?
Yes.
President Cole?
Yes.
Ms. Ingles?
Yes.
Dr. Pierce?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. All right, Madam Vice President, motion.
Item 27.1, motion for executive session. It is recommended the Board of Education recess into executive session pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 121.22G3 to confer with an attorney for the public body concerning disputes involving the public body that are the subject of pending or imminent court action, and Section 121.22G4 to prepare for, conduct or review negotiations or bargaining sessions with public employees concerning their compensation or other terms and conditions of their employment. That is a motion.
Second.
Motioned and seconded.
Vice President Adair?
Yes.
President Cole?
Yes.
Ms. Ingles?
Yes.
Dr. Pierce?
Yes.
Mr. Simmons?
Yes.
Ms. Vera?
Yes.
That motion carries.
All right, so we will go into executive session. Post-executive session, we will adjourn and not come back into the room. So thank you all for attending this evening. We look forward to seeing you at our next regular